Hi. You know, it's like the birds know that when I turn the camera on, and they all flee. Okay. We've got a bunch of birds in what I call the green room, waiting in the branches just off away from the feeders. That was an American bluebird. And here's the male American bluebird. Eastern bluebird, not American bluebird. I'm losing it. If I ever had it to lose. Now we've got house finches here and a house sparrow. Okay, so here we see two house finches on the right eating at the green feeder, and on the blue feeder on the left is a American goldfinch. We've had a lot of these goldfinches lately, and it's pretty cool to see them showing up in the spring. We've just had a few over the winter, and now there's a bunch of them, although there's just one here now. Got a downy woodpecker that just showed up here. See a really bright yellow goldfinch that keeps flitting through the screen. He's just above on the branch. There he is. You can see he's developing like that black spot on his head. Those are the males that are in their breeding plumage. They get that super bright yellow and the black spot on the top of the head. Downy woodpecker, brief visit for a suet ball. There's one of the bright goldfinches. Not to be disrespecting the house finches that have been there, but... Oh, red-bellied woodpecker. Thanks, Frodo. That's kind of a quiet stream. Although a few minutes ago, someone was running a leaf blower at 8:30 in the morning, which doesn't seem great to me. But whatever. You know, you gotta live in a society. Northern cardinal. The beautiful state bird of Indiana. That was a dark-eyed junco. Those are migrant birds that come here for the winter. They breed way up north in Canada and up in the Arctic. They live here in the yard all winter, eat a bunch of seed, and they'll be leaving shortly. Usually, once the juncos depart is when we start to see the hummingbirds come back here. We ran the hummingbird feeders through the dishwasher yesterday. Excited to see them return. Here's a good look at a male goldfinch. You can see he looks kind of blotchy and still has grayish gold parts. He's growing in his feathers for the spring breeding season, and he's not quite yet finished bursting out all those bright golden feathers. He looks good, though. You know, change is part of life. Being caught becoming who you are is no big deal. Let people see the process. These goldfinches don't care. He's willing to go out and be bad at things, which I respect a lot. I guess I mean bad looking. He doesn't look bad, though. He looked great. That's right, he is doing his best, and his best is pretty good. He's a very messy eater, though. If he comes back, he's such a slob. Watch him get the mushed up birdseed all over his face. we might get a downy woodpecker here on the board. Yeah, there he is. You can tell that's the male because of the red spot on the back of his head. The female won't have that red spot. Seems like we're in the landing pattern for the small airport near my house today. Which, again, part of living in town. There's one of our bluebirds. Oh. Just beautiful. There's his partner. These two live in a bluebird box in my neighbor's yard. And they've been around for a while. At least them and their descendants, maybe. Have had bluebirds breeding in the neighbor's yard for many years. It's a pleasure to see them back year after year. So downy woodpecker, that's the female without the red spot on the back of the head. Oh, this guy thinks he's so cool. And he is. You gotta admit. Here's the European starling. Probably bring a lot of their friends to just eat and eat and eat. Which, I get it. Everybody's gotta eat. Trying to have a better attitude about starlings. They're, just like everyone. They didn't ask to be born. Just doing their best to stay alive. So, try not to hold these individuals accountable for being an invasive species. But come on, man. Show some respect. He's just picking out all the good stuff. Making less of a mess than a lot of the starlings do, though, so I'll give him that. So there are a lot of stories about how starlings got here. The most popular one that you hear all the time is that there was this guy in 19th century New York City who decided that Central Park should be the home of every bird that's mentioned in Shakespeare, which is just such a weird, like, Anglophile project of colonialism that it's just so strange. And this guy did this, but it's probably not true. They were probably here earlier, and some people kept them as pets. I mean, they're very beautiful birds, and they're great mimics. Some of them can learn to even talk a little, like a parrot or a mynah bird. They're very cool. Just sometimes they outcompete the native birds, and that's, you know, it's a tough one. Like, to what point in history do you reset the world? When were things correct? Like, humans are an invasive species in North America, going back 100,000 years. So, I don't know. I'm just going to feed them while they're here. Also, who really likes Lucky Charms? I just think those marshmallows are so hard and unpleasant. But don't want to yuck anybody's yum. People love them, they love them. Okay, currently we have a bunch of goldfinches, Carolina wren, and a house finch on those feeders. But Carolina wren is one of the loud birds we're hearing. Oh, secret squirrel, thanks for joining from Australia. I guess these probably seem like exotic birds to your eye. But here they're pretty common. I'll let you all know if anybody really unusual shows up. We get some sometimes. We're just at the start of spring migration here, and a lot of migratory birds are starting to show up. So far, these are all pretty regular locals. We've got more goldfinches than we've had all winter, so I guess that's happening. But we're going to start seeing warblers and rose-breasted grosbeaks and a whole wave of migrants come through. And some of them come to the feeders, so hopefully we'll get to take a look at them here. Petey and Andy, the dogs, are here, insisting on scaring away birds, so sorry about that. Sometimes I feel like these guys want me to fail. Like they are almost always asleep at this time of day. But again, like the birds, it's like they know that I've turned the camera on. Andy, enough. You're loud. You're loud, brother. There's a male goldfinch again. Oh, he's out of here. A dark-eyed junco here. There's a female goldfinch. This junco's fueling up to fly many hundreds of miles to go do all his summer reproduction business. There's the leaf blower again. This little bird on the far left is, we haven't seen one yet. It's a chipping sparrow, which not a super exciting bird, but different than the house sparrows that are here all winter. The chipping sparrows do winter a little further south, and this one just showed back up this week. Here's the male northern cardinal. Look at this goldfinch. Very precious, hanging onto the wire while reaching down to get the seeds. Feels a little too good to stand on the wood there, I guess. Or maybe I'm reading too much into this bird's behavior. There we go. There's the goldfinch crowd that was promised. Now, if you're familiar with the Pulitzer Prize-winning Donna Tartt novel, The Goldfinch, it's nothing to do with these birds. It was a European goldfinch in the painting that the book turned on. So, almost a literary reference here today. But not quite. That's a Eurasian house sparrow, a very common bird around here. Also an invasive, but again, you know. It's a dark-eyed junco. The thing about the house sparrows that really bugs me is that they compete with bluebirds for nesting cavities, and they will raid bluebird nests and sometimes kill the bluebirds, which it's a real drag, man. I understand. Birds gotta make a living, but you don't have to be that way. Like a hawk eating a songbird, I get it. That's, everybody's gotta eat. Cooper's hawks are feeder birds too, but going into somebody's house and anyway, house sparrows, they gotta be full. Carolina Wren just landed on the lens out of one of the cameras. You may have heard that in the audio. These little birds are way adventurous. They've been in the house 2 times here in the years that I've lived here. You know, like leaving the door open in the spring to let the beautiful weather in. And, yeah, 2 times. Carolina Wrens, those are the only birds that have come into the house. We've also had a chipmunk come into the house. Of course, mice living out in the woods here. It's kind of inevitable. And then one time a possum that Petey the dog brought in through the dog door, which was horrifying. We don't get that many bugs, though, which I don't think is probably that great. Like, we have fewer spiders outside every year, it feels like to me. I used to have to check the door every morning when I went out to make sure a spider hadn't put his web across it. I haven't had to do that the last couple of summers, and I worry that it's people using more and more pesticides on their lawns and their yards. We get the door-to-door bug spray salespeople who come around in the spring and try to get you to kill off all the bugs in your backyard, which I don't love it. I didn't move out here to live in a mosquito-free zone. But, you know, there are other ways to deal with it besides just blanket killing everything. And it's terrible for birds. A lot of them rely on these bugs for a meal. So I'm starting the process of making my yard a certified wildlife habitat. Adding some features like we get a lot of sticks that fall down in our trees, fall into the yard. So I'm retaining a brush pile and a section of the yard that doesn't get the leaves raked to provide wildlife habitat. I'll be building a water feature to provide water for wildlife. It's already a pretty wildlife-friendly yard. It doesn't have any grass. It's all ground cover. We don't have to mow or anything. But yeah, I want more. I love it. So on the feeder now, I think that's a female brown-headed cowbird. And they've recently shown up here. They were gone for the winter, now they're back. They're brood parasites, like a cuckoo. They will lay their eggs in another bird's nest, and then these poor suckers will raise those cowbird chicks with their own. Oh, thanks, y'all. You're not watching this while you're driving, are you, Ashley? And thanks to you, Bugger. I'm glad these regular birds from my backyard seem exotic. I wish I were better at identifying them by sound, because we're certainly hearing more than we're seeing. There's a red-bellied woodpecker. That is the female because of the red stripe on the head doesn't go all the way to the base of the bill. A couple of house finches here. Male-female differentiation there is that red coloration. And there's some chemical in their food, whatever they eat, that gives the male that red color. And that's a sort of conspicuous consumption, I guess. It signals to potential mates that he's well fed. The brighter his red is. Thanks, Jessica. Welcome. Oh, there's a red-winged blackbird. That's the first one we'll see today, I think. I've been hearing them, but yeah, this is the first one to show up. Red-winged blackbirds are another migrant. They left for the winter. They're back. Especially hang out around ponds. It's a little sexist, but the red-winged blackbird, that's a male. They're called that because of the black feathers and the red patches on the wings. The females look like sort of large house sparrows, and it took me forever to figure out when I was a new birder what I was looking at. But yeah, you know, the more you look, the more you see. And I've gotten better at IDing these birds as the years go by. Just takes practice like anything else. Hi, Josiah. Yeah, I'm using a Rode Videocaster, or a Rodecaster Video as the switcher, and that is also a streamer, like it connects to the streaming account, and then the cameras are both Sony's with some long lenses. Oh, cool. Welcome. Yeah, I should probably do Instagram Lives and TikTok Lives as well. But yeah, thanks for following along. Oh, great. So these are probably all familiar species. Nice. Come on, guys. There's enough birdseed there to share. There's a tufted titmouse. We hear him calling in the background. He's about to show up. Nope. Never mind. He went elsewhere. Here's the titmouse with a brief visit. That's our chipping sparrow that has just come into view and out of view. Yeah, bluebirds have been by a couple times this morning. They're usually on the board quite a bit. What's this? Just a bit. Josiah, the bluebirds here are pretty cool. I was talking about it earlier. They've lived in my neighbor's bluebird box for years here. They've been regular visitors, which has been a real pleasure. They really like mealworms. That will help draw them to your feeders, I think. Yeah, the starlings, they do come by and really go through the food, but, they gotta make a living too. Here comes a bluebird now. Look at that. Ask and you shall receive. Lori, I assume you're talking about the bluebirds, not the starlings. Starlings, they're everywhere. Bluebirds, I feel very lucky to have them here. It's the female northern cardinal. Our year-round grosbeak will get, we might be lucky enough to see some rose-breasted grosbeaks at the feeder here at the end of April as they pass through on migration. And very occasionally we'll have an eruption of evening grosbeaks here in Indianapolis, but I've never seen one. I think a couple years ago we had a bunch of them. Yeah, the starlings and the way they can mimic is pretty amazing. Woodpecker sound, I think, is probably a downy woodpecker. It doesn't sound low enough to be pileated, but we did have a couple of pileated woodpeckers on the bird feeder 2 days ago, I think. That's always a shock when that giant dinosaur appears on the feeders. Okay. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. Really appreciate everybody coming by. Thank you so much.